A long time ago, during the reign of King Arthur in England, there was a river that wound its way through the countryside to Camelot. In the middle of this river there was an island on which a gray stone tower had been built. At the top of the tower lived the Lady of Shalott. Now this lady lived under a curse that doomed her to continually weave on a loom and never look out the window of the tower, because if she stopped her weaving or if she looked out the tower window, she would die. She had been given a magic mirror, however, that showed glimpses of the outside world. So the lady spent her days weaving tapestries and watching the world pass by. And the world did pass by, for barges and skiffs floated down the river to Camelot, and a highway ran along the river's banks. And on this highway passed market girls and shepherds, servant girls and abbots, all going about their business, never knowing that a lady lived in the tower that they passed. Workers in nearby barley fields knew, however, because sometimes they could hear her singing in the evening, and they told themselves that it was the fairy Lady of Shalott. Now, while her neighbors didn't really know her, the lady loved them, and she thought of them as her people. So she wove them into her tapestries and surrounded them with bright, beautiful colors. And sometimes she would hang these tapestries on the gray stone walls of her tower, and she would talk to them. She would tell them her thoughts and her hopes, for she had many daydreams. But the one that she cherished most dearly was of a golden knight who would find her in her tower, break the curse, and be her companion. But the knight never came, and she began to think that he never would. Then one day, as she was weaving, she saw a golden light reflected in her mirror. She looked closely at the magic mirror and realized that it was the sun reflecting off of a suit of armor. Could it be him, she asked herself? Could it be my golden knight? And indeed it was a knight, and he was very handsome. He sang a happy song, and the bells on his bridle rang merrily. The lady watched breathlessly as he drew closer to her tower, and then she gasped as he began to pass by. She cried out and sprang up from her loom. She rushed to the tower window, and she looked out of it. She just caught a glimpse of the back of the knight's helmet as it disappeared around a bend. And then the Lady of Shalott just stood there. And then she heard it, a quiet pinging that turned into a loud cracking as the magic mirror shattered. "The curse is upon me," the lady said. And then she smiled, for she was glad. She quickly gathered up some of her tapestries, carried them down the stairs of the tower and out of the door. She found a boat tied beneath a willow tree and lay her tapestries on its bottom. She wrote her name in large letters along the boat's side, and she stepped into it. She released the chain that bound it to the shore, and as she lay back on her soft tapestries, the boat began to make its way down the river. The lady looked up into the sky and saw birds flying overhead and branches pass by. She heard the sounds of children laughing and yelling. She smelled delicious smells and some smells that weren't so delicious. And the lady laughed for joy. As she saw the first flags appear over the towers of Camelot, the Lady of Shalott closed her eyes and she died. The boat continued its way down the river, and when it bumped into the end of a pier, a quick-thinking fisherman grabbed it. When he saw what was inside, he called his neighbors to come and see. They were stunned by what they found, a beautiful woman lying dead on a pile of finely crafted tapestries. Who is she? They asked themselves, and when they saw her name on the boat's side, they were scared. But they also felt for this lonely woman who had died alone, and so they took her body, they wrapped it in one of her tapestries, they buried her, and they blessed her. And then the fisherman and his neighbors took the rest of the tapestries to their own homes, because they found them and the people depicted upon them beautiful.